Good morning. This is the time and place for the zoning cases hearing for June 23rd, 2010. My name is Jeff Hamilton. I'll be conducting the hearing as hearing officer today. We have 4 cases today, and the relevant exhibits for those cases are posted on the panels directly behind me. Under the provisions, we have variances, we have conditional use permit, and we have a parking reduction permit, so I'll need to read the procedures for all of those. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.43 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if 4 of the required findings are present. 1, that the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. 2, that there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not generally apply to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. 3, that the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And 4, that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. For conditional use permits under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.42 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. They are: 1, that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan. 2, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. 3, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property. And 4, that adequate public and private facilities, including utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures, are or will be provided for the proposed use. One of the CUPs involves an application for the sale, serving, or consumption of alcoholic beverages, and there are specific findings for that CUP also, in addition to the others. First, the census tract with more than the recommended maximum concentration level of on-sale or off-sale uses, and as recommended by the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control, that such use does not nor will not tend to intensify or otherwise contribute to the adverse impacts on the surrounding area caused by such overconcentration. 2, that the crime reporting district location of the existing or proposed use with a crime rate which exceeds 20% of the city average for Part 1 crimes as reported by the Glendale Police Department. And the intent is that such use will not tend to encourage or intensify crime within the district. 3, that the existing or proposed use does not or will not adversely impact any church, public or private school or college, daycare facility, public park, library, hospital, or residential use within the surrounding area. 4, that the adequate parking and loading facilities are or will be provided for the existing or proposed use, or other reasonable alternatives satisfy the transportation and parking needs of the existing or proposed use. And 5, that notwithstanding consideration of the criteria in sections 1 through 4 above, the existing or proposed use does or will serve a public necessity or public convenience purpose for the area. We also have a parking reduction permit, and it has certain findings also that are listed in section 30.32070A and table 30.32B when the project has qualifying project features. If the evidence presented in the application at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the zoning administrator can either approve or impose conditions for approval, not zoning administrator, the hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject properties, physically posted on the sites in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the application or request. I'll read the reports received from other city departments and other letters of communication from interested parties. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward, stating both his name and address, and will be asked to present the case with a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both name and address, within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments, if desired, in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and the case taken under submission, or in some cases, a decision may be rendered at the hearing. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing, will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses, and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. If this is a simple, straightforward case, and no new information is needed or presented at the hearing officer may render a decision at the hearing. In that case, the date of the decision will be the actual hearing date. A decision letter is prepared for that day or the following day based on the findings recommended by the staff, facts or information presented at the hearing, and other departments, and typical conditions will be applied. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from Building and Safety Section in the Permit Services Center located on the same floor of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms, which have been provided by the front door, and submit it to the planning assistant. I would like to make sure everyone is aware that the official proceeding of the hearing officer's hearing are recorded on tape as part of the public record. Okay, so for our first case today, it's a continued item. Case located, case number PCUP 2010-003 at 831 East Colorado Street. This item was continued from the hearing of June 9th, 2010. The applicant is Williams Land Use Services, who are representing the property business Hookah Lounge. The owner of the property is Afik Hunanian, and the case planner is Gevorg Nazarian. The description of the project is an application for a conditional use permit to permit the upgrade from on-site sale, service and consumption of beer and wine, to full liquor, I assume sale, service, and consumption at an existing full-service restaurant located at the address listed in the C31 Commercial Service Zone, Height District 1, described as a portion of Lot 16, Block 4, Glendale Orange Grove Tract. Okay, would the case planner like to give a presentation?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Lambert. Thank you. Before I give any presentation, I would like to ask request continuance based on the request made by the applicant and the applicant's group, the attorney, and as well as the expediter, requesting continuance to July 21st, 2010. And staff recommends the continuance be approved, but it is entirely up to your discretion whether you want to have it for today or if you would like to continue July 21st.
Has the applicant or the applicant's representative given you a reason why they want the continuance?
They have hired a team of attorneys that will be working with them, and they need more time to do their research before they can present the case.
So this has been continued once.
Right.
I don't see any speaker cards other than from, I don't see any speaker cards for either the applicant or any interested parties to this case. So I will continue it to July 21st, a date certain of July 21st, 2010, with the understanding to the applicant that we really can't conscience any more continuances. We've continued it a couple times to accommodate their needs, and we really do need to proceed with the case and render a decision.
And no further notice will be required.
It will be continued to a date certain with no further notice required, yes. So the hearing on that item is closed, and now we'll be taking another item out of order. Item 4 on the agenda is case number PPR 2009-011. That's an application for parking reduction permit. We're taking it out of order because I'm going to be the hearing officer on that one also, rather than, and there's going to be a different hearing officer for the middle two items. So we're going to move that one up for the case at 1250 West Glen Oaks Boulevard, taking that next. The applicant is Randy Stevenson. The owner of the property is David R. Stevenson. The case planner is Jale Kiazand. The project description is an application for parking reduction permit to allow restriping of the parking area of a shopping center to provide for 17 parking spaces. located at the address described in the C2 Community Commercial Zone, Height District 1. And I'm not going to bother with the legal description. Jolly, would you like to give a presentation?
Good morning, Mr. Hearing Officer. The project before you, the case number PPR 2009-011, located at 1240-1250 West Lennox Boulevard, is an application for a parking reduction permit to allow restriping of an existing surface parking lot to provide 17 parking spaces for the existing shopping center. I must mention that parking number 17 is a legal non-conforming parking spot, which was approved by a variance in 2004. So it is considered so today. The subject property is located on the south side of Lennox Boulevard and contains a single-story shopping center and an apartment building. Approximately 1/10 of the lot area is occupied by the residential building. Variance case number 10,241-S, approved on May 12, 2004, allowed 18 parking spaces. The plans for this variance included a handicap parking space at the western end of the parking lot. During restriping of the parking lot, a building inspector informed the applicant that the handicap parking space at the proposed location could not work because of on-site water drainage. The handicap parking space was located instead in the middle of the parking lot, which caused a one-space reduction in the number of parking spaces. On July 19, 2005, a building inspector noted the change in striping relevant to approved plan, and the citation was issued. In February 2009, the city notified the applicant that no permit for the current parking layout was on file and that the permit was needed for the current layout. As a result, the applicant has applied for the parking reduction permit. The subject site contains a shopping center, one-story apartment building, and a 16-space surface parking area on 7 lots in the C2 zone. The surface parking lot was restriped without a permit and with a reduced number of parking spaces, 16 relative to the previously approved 18. The shopping center was constructed between 1961 and 1964, and the subject site was located in the C3 zone. The zoning of the property changed to C2 in 1986. The zoning code required fewer parking spaces at the time of construction than would be required under today's code. The shopping center is located on the south side of Glenox Boulevard, a main street which is served by public transportation. The shopping center has operated successfully with fewer parking spaces for about 50 years. During the week, the parking demand at its peak is 15 spaces as shown in the demand analysis survey provided by the applicant. During the weekend, the parking demand at its peak is 11 parking spaces. Therefore, the proposed number of parking spaces is more than required at the peak hour demand. Additionally, public transportation and street parking spaces on Glenox Boulevard and Newby Street provide additional parking for the shopping center, and therefore parking need for the land use is not as great as for similar land uses. The zoning code allows a reduction of the required number of parking spaces based on an early parking demand study. The parking demand study provided by the applicant identified the peak demand for parking spaces at 1 p.m. during the week is 15 parking spaces. The intent of the land use element for the community services land use designation is flexibility in the range and type of services and facilities provided. Allowing the operation of the shopping center with a reduced number of code-required parking spaces will allow flexibility in facilities as intended by the land use element. The subject site is surrounded by commercial and residential uses. The project site is currently developed with shopping center and an apartment building. The 7 lots on which the shopping center is located are fully developed with no capacity for physical expansion. The current users can function with the existing number of parking spaces. The proposed project is a reduction of 1 parking space relative to the previously approved 18 parking spaces. Proposed relocation of the ADA parking space will provide better access to the shopping center for the disabled. Regional transit line serves this area. Additionally, street parking is available on Glendale Boulevard and Newby Street. Therefore, the proposed 17 parking spaces sufficiently serve the shopping center. Staff believes that can make all of the findings in a positive manner and recommend approval of the parking reduction permit with the conditions.
Thank you. Jale, could you come up to the board and show on the map approximately where the apartment building is on the property?
Sure. This is the extent of the apartment building. This is the shopping center.
So the apartment building is at the back here?
Right, at the corner.
And then, Jale, thank you for that. In the staff report, you say that the request is to provide 17 parking spaces, but then it says there's a 16-space parking lot right now. So I'm a little confused. Is it 16 or 17 spaces that are going to be out there?
Okay, originally they had a variance approved 18 parking spaces. Then they restriped it that currently they have 16, so they're proposing 17, which would be 1 reduction relevant to the previously approved 18.
Okay.
Currently there is 16, so they're adding 1.
They are adding a space compared to what?
Currently is there.
Okay, so is the parking arrangement, the parking plan that's up on the board, does that represent the existing striping plan, or is that going to be a new striping plan?
No, that's the proposed new plan.
And maybe the applicant can come up and respond to that a little bit later. So the current situation is that there are 16 spaces on the site, and they've been there at least since 2004, apparently?
At least, yes, exactly.
Okay, and it was discovered shortly thereafter, but the city never really pursued enforcement until fairly recently.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to read some of the comments from other departments now. It appears that we don't have any comments from any objections or any concerns from any department except from Mr. Mitchell of Traffic and Transportation, who he expressed concern about one of the spaces, stall number 17, being not legal because of its size. Jale, did you mention earlier that that was considered a legal space?
Right, because it was approved by variance in 2004. So it is still considered legal non-conforming.
Very good. Okay, I would like the applicant to come forward and offer comments.
Morning, Hearing Officer Hamilton and staff. With regard to the...
Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Stevenson, owner applicant. My address is 1111 North Brand Boulevard.
Thank you.
Suite 200. With regard to the findings that need to be made for the parking reduction permit, first item is that the parking need for the land use is not as great as for similar land uses, or the parking requirement for the land use established in the zoning code is greater than what will be needed by the land use. With regard to this first finding, subject property is a mixed-use, commercial and residential shopping center consisting of approximately 11,980 gross square feet of building, situated on approximately 19,131 square feet of land. The buildings on the subject property were originally constructed in 1961 and 1964. The project has been a retail center for the past 50 years. It is similar in regard to many other properties in the city of Glendale that were developed under a previous code that did not require parking spaces pursuant to the current code. Buildings have operated successfully for countless years and continue to do so. The second requirement is that the intent of the parking regulations, in compliance with all other applicable provisions of the chapter, is met. Has the intent of the parking regulations been met? It has been met in that the existing handicap accessible space is being migrated in order to come more completely in compliance with the International Building Code, which governs handicap parking requirements as far as the grade of the stall and accessibility to the property are concerned. The current location of the handicap stall is on the easterly portion of the property. The buildings sit below grade. Currently, there is a drainage system, which is essentially a gutter that takes water flow from the westerly portion of the property to the easterly portion. When a disabled individual using the handicap space accesses the building, they have to cross that culvert. The migration of the parking stall will allow for two things. One, a grade will be introduced that is more in compliance with current code that's required, as well as a grate will be established over that culvert so that accessibility conforms to current code. The third requirement is that sufficient parking would be provided to serve the intended use and potential future uses of the subject parcel. There are currently 16 spaces servicing the existing center, as have been mentioned. The center was constructed at a time, again, when parking requirements were very different than those of the current code. It's operated successfully for years and continues to do so. The parking demand analysis identifies that there's sufficient parking on site during peak hours, whether it be weekday or weekend. Elimination of the one space from the originally approved 18 spaces in order to accommodate the handicap parking requirements, therefore, is proven not to have a negative impact on the surrounding environment. Again, the center's been in use and has worked sufficiently over the past 50 years. The actual demand at its maximum was 15 spaces at its highest peak.
Thank you very much. So out there right now are 16 spaces, including the one non-conforming space as to size.
That's correct.
And with the restriping, you're going to gain one space over existing conditions.
Correct.
And that's even with the loss or the non-use of this area that used to be used for handicap access?
That's correct. When it was, let's say when a determination was made in the field when the striping originally occurred, the handicap space was migrated from the west to the east. By doing such, when the spaces were striped, they were actually striped wider than code allowed. Consequently, obviously when we were notified that that the permit hadn't been pulled or it hadn't been finalized, we went back and restudied the site. By migrating the handicap space to the middle of the lot, allowed us to more concretely make use of the existing space that had been spread out amongst all the spaces, hence giving the plan that actually allows us to get to 17.
Do you physically, and this might be a question best directed to Jale, but do you know if there's physically enough room to meet our code requirements for turning radius if all the spaces were made perpendicular, 90-degree spaces, rather than angled parking?
Perpendicular, if memory serves me, would not allow for code backup space.
I think.
Width, yes, but backup, no.
And Jale, can you
I agree.
clarify that?
Yes, I will, but it will need more backup space if it is perpendicular rather than angled.
What's the required backup space if it was a 90-degree parking?
24 feet.
And it looks like we only have 17 feet right now.
Right.
And which would, if it went to 90 degree, that would be even shorter.
Exactly.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson, there's a code requirement that any part of the parking area that's not being used for parking has to be landscaped. Would you be willing to accept a condition that the former handicap accessible area be converted to landscaping?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in support or opposition to this case? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to be rendering opinion in favor of the PPR. That's my tentative opinion. It will not become, in fact, official until I draft the letter. But this seems pretty clear to me that this has been functioning adequately, that even though we're going to be losing a space relative to the original variance, we're actually gaining a space in the real world. And I'm very familiar with the shopping center, and it's been functioning fine for many decades, obviously. So I have no trouble approving this parking reduction permit. I should be able to get the letter out today or tomorrow, but that's my tentative opinion. Okay, that closes this case. And now I'll be handing off to Roger Kiesel, who will be the hearing officer on the next two cases. Do you want any of this? Yeah.
All right, good morning. The next case is case number PVAR 2010-003. It's a variance case at 3623 4th Avenue. The applicant is William Flores. The owners are Michael and Jocelyn Soriano. The case it's an application for a variance to add to add 379 square feet to an existing single-family house while maintaining an interior setback of 3 feet and not providing a second covered enclosed parking space. Again, the project is located at 3623 4th Avenue in the R1 district, floor area ratio district 2, described as lot 222 of licensed surveyor's map LS 14-27-28. The case planner is Gavorg Nazarian.
Thank you, Mr. Kiesel. Good morning. As you mentioned, the variance case number is PVAR 2010-003, located at 3623 4th Avenue. The proposal is to add 379 square feet of floor area while maintaining the existing one-car garage and not providing the second parking space, and addition is also proposed to take place within 3 feet of the property line at the interior setback. The current, may I come up to the board?
You may.
Currently there's a 810 square feet house on this property with 19 feet and 6 inches from the front, and the existing garage, one-car garage, is set back further by another 20 feet, and it's got an existing storage at the back, right behind the garage. The proposal is to do the 379 square foot addition and take some of the existing storage away so that they don't go over the allowed 40% lot coverage to avoid that additional variance request. The addition, there's also an existing porch at the front that is, originally the addition was proposed to go up to the porch. Hence, I would like to make the clarification that it was advertised as 447 square foot addition, but it's actually 379. And that's the reason because applicant pushed that addition back to where the existing house is and not the porch.
Okay.
Staff was able to make the findings and recommend approval for the parking variance because in order to provide a second car garage, you would require demolishing of the existing house by at least 50% or more, and that would create hardship. The lot is, in fact, a small lot. However, staff could not make the findings to support the interior setback variance simply because a redesign of the project could turn it around and make it a code compliant project as far as interior setback is concerned. So staff recommends approval of the parking variance with conditions including the 4-foot interior setback, which would be current code requirement. And that wraps up my brief presentation. If you have questions for me.
The setback they're proposing is 3.
Yes, the current house is already at 3,
Mhm.
and they're proposing to continue it. But staff could not make finding number 1, which is hardship. And a simple redesign of the project will
Okay.
Eliminate that additional variance request.
Very good. Thanks.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna. Oops, wrong mic. I'm gonna read comments that we got from the other departments in the city. The water engineering section wants the applicant to check with the fire department and determine if fire flow is adequate. Any water service or fire line connection no longer needed, must be permanently abandoned, and they're requesting backflow prevention devices for each separate irrigation and fire service connection. So that's a summary of their concerns. The fire prevention staff state that installation of fire sprinkler system is required if improvements are 50% or greater for the valuation of the structure. And then engineering has a concern. Well, engineering is just stating some code requirements. A drainage plan will need to be reviewed and approved. The method of discharge for on-site drainage shall be approved by the city engineer. Separate permits are required for all work in the public right-of-way, and the applicant shall comply with national pollutants discharge elimination system requirements. Okay, so those were the comments from other departments. If the applicant, or let's see, I'm sorry. We've got 2 cards for this case, so who would like to come up first?
Good morning. My name is William Flores, 2513.5 California Street, Huntington Park. Well, the owners wants, to do this room addition. It's a very small house. It's only a 1-bedroom house.
Mm-hmm.
They have a large family, 3 small kids. They need all the square footage they can get. I mean, if they can keep that 3-foot side yard, that'll help them a lot. I mean, they can move it, move that a foot in, but like I said, it's a very small house. I mean, they need all that. Plus, that offset is going to look kind of awkward on the side. It's going to look like it was an addition. You want to make that the residence look like it's part of an original house. You don't want it to show that that's an addition in the front.
Can you go over the findings
What do you mean by-
of the variance to back up your case? The 4 findings for the variance request, that might be helpful, because I know the applicants want the addition.
Mhm.
It's just it's a matter of making the 4 findings. Yeah. Do you have a? The hardship findings and how what they want to do is not going to impact the neighborhood, that sort of thing.
Well, I don't see how it's going to impact there, but most of those residents have a 3-foot setback
Okay.
on the side. I mean, it's 90% of the residents in that area have a 3-foot or less.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about what are the hardship requirements?
I don't understand what you mean by that.
Okay. Let me ask some questions then. In the application that you state under finding A that complying with the requirements would require demolition of more than 50% of the existing residents, can you sort of walk me through that argument? And you can come up here.
Well, that was, for if the 2-car garage is required, there's, they would have to knock half of that to get through, to be able to provide a second parking space.
So what you're saying is, you would need to, obviously, if you want to put it here.
Yeah, it would have to be there,
You've gotta-
and you would lose 50% of that house,
Okay. Did you explore putting something here and adding on to the back, or? I don't know how that works with lot coverage, floor area ratio.
Well, yeah, that would, the garage would take up most of the lot coverage. I mean, we would just be providing another garage and.
Right, with no other
With
space.
no other space.
Okay,
The only, would have to go two-story, and that would be too costly for the owner there.
okay.
They are in
Did
fact
you?
taking some of the existing storage down to meet the lot coverage
Oh,
requirements.
okay, that's right. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Is that storage, does it have a permit? Do you know?
Part of the original house. Original
Okay,
design.
okay, okay. You stated in the application that a large portion of the residences in the area have one-car garages and 3-foot setbacks. Do you have, numbers, or is that just as a drive-by you?
I drove by the neighborhood, and, most of them have 3-foot setbacks and one-car garage. The only ones that I've seen that have two-car garage are two-story single-family homes, because they built on top of the
Okay.
garage area.
Okay. Did you explore? Let's see, where? I guess I'll use this. Okay, this is the area that you're requesting the setback.
Yes.
variance. Did you explore how feasible it would be to bump this wall back in a foot? And it looks like you've got a little bit of room down here without encroaching into the front setback.
Well, we would be encroaching into the front setback, because it's 25 foot in the front.
It looks like, though, right here, as it's proposed now, you've got 25 feet 10 inches. You could go 10 inches forward
Mhm.
and still meet the 25-foot minimum setback and go in. You wouldn't
But-
gain quite as much
Well, yes.
quite as much square footage, but you
But then there
would
would
be able to comply with it.
there would be that offset, that 10-inch offset, which wouldn't make any sense. And also a foot offset on the side. I mean, it's going to make like it's an addition. You don't want, when you pass by, you're going to say, well, that's an addition, right in front of the building, right in front of the residence. It doesn't look, like it's part of the original house. You want to, when you do addition, when we try to do addition, we try to make it look like it's there originally, not
Sure.
like it was part of just planted on.
Okay. So it's your opinion that, you could do that, it just wouldn't.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to look right.
Okay. Second speaker card is Jocelyn Soriano.
You need this?
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I'll need that back, thanks. Thanks. Hi.
Good morning. Jocelyn Soriano, 3623 4th Avenue. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband. We are the property owners, and I would just like to take this opportunity to request that if there's any reconsideration you can make about the variance. I understand that the garage is already, there's no way we can do the second garage. I mean, if we could, we would. And then in relation to what you were asking William to explain earlier about the front setback, we had originally, the reason why it was proposed as 447 square foot is because we wanted the front to be 5 foot forward, but was advised that we were going to,
You'd
again, we were
encroach
not
into the
compliant,
setback,
yes.
yeah.
So the front setback. So that's the reason why we pushed it back, and that's why we are requesting again for any kind of consideration. If we could please just have that 1 foot setback. We're trying to maximize the living space as much as we can, and we are more than willing to lose part or even more of the storage if we had to, because the storage is a storage, nobody lives there. So if we need to knock it down and turn it into landscape, we're more than willing to do that. So I read the 4 findings, and I understand that we only met 2 out of the 4. I really don't have any other backup. I understand what it's saying and reasons behind it, more than just that consideration, and that, yes, we are willing to lose more of the storage in order to maximize that addition that we're trying to request. And to supplement what William had said, it hasn't been detrimental to any of our neighbors. We've lived there since 2001. Everybody else seems, to have just a 2, maybe 3 feet setback, and everybody seems to just do fine, because, you have to consider the lot coverage or the lot sizes in La Crescenta. It's just really tiny, and there's no way around it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little more comfortable with the garage request than the setback request. It was Gavorg's analysis that he couldn't make the findings for all of the garage requests, but not all of the findings for the setback request. So, it's really incumbent upon you to make those 4 findings for the setback request.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Okay.
we respect what you guys, ask us to do. We're trying to work with the city.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to add, either? Okay, great. All right, I think... Okay, I think I've asked all my questions, so I'll take this case under submission, and I'll render a decision shortly. Thanks a lot. All right, the next case before the planning hearing officer this morning is case number PCUP 2010-001. It's located at 730 South Central Avenue. The applicant is Nicholas Oatway. The owner is Jax Massachi, Central Marketplace LLC. The applicant is, the project description is the application of a conditional use permit for on-site sales, service, and consumption of beer and wine at an existing billiard establishment located at 730 South Central Avenue in the CG Commercial General Zone, described as a portion of Lot 1, Track 4378, portion of Lot 5, Birmingham's Track, portion of Lot 51, Track number 393. The case planner is Chris Baxter.
Mr. Kiesel, good morning.
Good morning.
As you noted, the proposed project is for a conditional use permit to allow the on-site sales, service, and consumption of beer and wine at an existing billiards establishment in the South Branch Pacific Plan area. The project is located in a 2-story shopping center consisting of retail, office, and restaurant uses on South Central Avenue at the corner of Windsor Road. The existing billiards establishment has a conditional use permit. It was granted in June of 2008, and it expires in June of 2013. This particular request is primarily for the addition of beer and wine to this establishment, and but it is also a look at the billiards establishment at the same time, so the two can be tied together. Now, the staff is recommending denial because we don't believe the applicant meets the very high threshold standards that the city sets for CUPs. but they will be making their arguments here shortly. Now, as I mentioned, this particular project site is located in the South Brand Boulevard specific plan area, so it's in the South Glendale area. To the north, to the west, and to the south, to the east immediately to this property, if you look on the right to the east side, that's a multifamily zone. The comments, we had two sets of comments, one from the police department and one from Integrated Waste. Some of the police comments are integrated into the findings for my analysis, and I'll go through some of those. I'll highlight those, but I'm sure you'll be reading through them, and as part of that.
You're stealing part of my thunder.
Yes, I will not steal your thunder, sir. I'll try to make this real brief. So on the analysis part, I would like to look at this first paragraph that we have where the city sets high thresholds for the sale, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages through the conditional use permit. It is the city's mechanism to monitor the community's general concerns typically associated with alcoholic beverages at an establishment in the city. The process allows an applicant to demonstrate that the sale, service, and alcohol consumption at an establishment will be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan and will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare, nor will it conflict with adjacent uses or impede their normal development. Again, staff didn't feel that they met the high thresholds that are required for recommending approval. To highlight a couple of other points, the previous, or I should say the existing conditional use permit for the billiard establishment had some interesting language in their findings that said that the hours of operation would be late afternoons and early evening. And the applicant has been operating them longer than that. However, there were no conditions that restricted the hours of operation. It was just that it was presented that way in the application at the last hearing back in 2008.
And was that included in part of the findings?
Not at that time.
Okay, it was just a statement that said we're going to operate.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, the current application initially had that information, but when staff was looking at it during the field inspections and talking with the applicant, we found that, in fact, they weren't operating that way. So we asked them to actually state what hours of operation they want, and we have that on page 4 of the staff report, and it's longer than the hours of operation that one would gather from late afternoon to early evening. And they have two sets of hours of operation, one for the billiard establishment and one for the sale of alcohol. Now the police comments, I won't steal your thunder, but they had several comments. They had concerns. They did not recommend denial, but they did have concerns, and they did list those. And we do have a representative here from the police department should you wish to ask questions. One of the concerns that staff had, in addition to the hours of operation vagueness, was a condition from the previous conditional use permit. And that previous condition was condition number 17, which requires a posting of a sign that says no person under 18 years of age is to be admitted unless accompanied by an adult or parent. Now on its face, and so when staff did the site inspection back in January when the application was submitted, we didn't see a sign, and we noted it to the applicant. You know, you were approved in 2008. I believe I said, what was it, June of 2008? And here it is, January, we don't see a sign. So the applicant did put up a sign, and it appears to meet code in that it's on the inside of the glass, and you can have the 25% rule, as you're probably familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things that it's interesting, I just want to point out, is that this issue of having no persons under 18 years of age is an important issue. In fact, in the code, chapter, let me just back up, section 5.24.030, for billiards rooms, they do have that no person under 18 years is allowed unless accompanied by a parent or a guardian. That's a code requirement. So this issue is important. And as stated by the applicant, one of our concerns related to this is that they're going to be gearing this to young people. It says in their application, it's going to be a place of entertainment for young people to have fun. There's nothing wrong with the billiards establishment. Staff would fully support that. They actually have a little kitchen that they've added with the deli type of setup with the 8 chairs and less things. So they do have the ability to serve food and drinks, but non-alcoholic. So they're not being denied a complete use of their property. Billiards establishment and food and drinks. Our concern is the alcohol. And I think when you read the police comments, take into consideration the thing about the kind of this vagueness of the hours of operation that seemed to have fluctuated until brought out. Bring in the situation about the sign not being posted, or if it was posted and fell down, it was not immediately put up again when staff went out there. These are things that just cause staff to have some concerns that maybe at this time, this application is not ready for a sale of alcoholic beverages. And that would be why we're recommending denial.
So those are your 3 main concerns, and the reason why you're recommending denial of this.
Yes, sir. Police comments.
Police comments.
Hours of operation
signs,
was a little
hours
bit
of
soft,
operation.
and the hours of operation.
Okay.
And remember, their clientele is to young people. And one of the police comments, which again I want to steal it thunder, is that this place is located in a very isolated part of the building, so that when you look at that, in fact, there's a nice overhead, but you can see it over here as well. Just real quickly.
Right.
So the visibility, which was noted by police, here's the location here.
Right.
So it's the visibility is pretty difficult to get to, and you can see it more in fashion here. So you have a wall here, and then you go down a corridor. It is open from above here, and there's the facility back there. So there's just at this time, it just doesn't seem to work.
Is that the building?
That is yes, sir.
Oh, sorry.
That's part of the building. That's
Okay.
exactly correct. So that's some of our issues that we have concerns about, Mr. Kiesel.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me go over the department comments first, and then I'll ask the applicant to come up and speak. I'll go over the police department comments first. Their comments include this census tract is over-concentrated. There are currently 10 on-site establishments in this census tract that is only allocated 6. Additionally, the location of on-site alcohol establishment in this mini mall is further exacerbated by the following facts. 6 schools within 1,500 feet of the location, 2 tutoring centers in the actual mini mall. Although there have been no calls in the past year to the project location, the mini mall where it is located has been the scene of numerous calls for drunk and drinking individuals. This would leave one to believe that the landowner has not engaged in a safety assessment or completed a crime prevention through environmental design review. Fourth, the proposed billiard establishment is in the corner of a mini mall and is difficult to see into from the parking area. The last comment, the emergency exit leads to a fenced-in area and would not allow for successful evacuation. Under code requirements, this facility must adhere to the city's clean air and noise ordinances, and they must obtain a building premises permit. And then, as suggested conditions, if the CUP is granted, the first one is no smoking allowed. The second, no tinting of the front windows or signs that may block a clear view into the location. Third, staff will monitor the parking area when the business is open. And the final one is there will be at least 3 employees on site at all times. And then we had one other comment from Integrated Waste, and their comment was recycling containers must be provided for collection of all cans, glass, and plastic bottles that might be discarded. Recyclables must be properly disposed of. Those were the 2 comments we got. Why don't I call up, I just have one card from Nicholas Oatway. Come up and speak. Thanks.
Good morning, Mr. Kessel. My name's Nicholas Oatway. I live at 3998 Grand Avenue, Ojai. I'm here representing the owner of the space, not the owner of the space, and the leasee. I have present with me in support Arthur Hazarian, David Hazarian's father, and I also have David here as well.
And he's the leasee?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'd like to speak directly to the police comments, that being the most concerns expressed from the city of Glendale. And they are talking about the consumption of alcohol at this location. In my discussions with the police department, one of the main sources of issue for problems related to that specific site and alcohol consumption was a actual liquor store in that facility, which is no longer present. Number two, they talked about, obviously, the location of this particular space is off in a corner of the askewed site, slightly askewed, and would be difficult for police to monitor whatever was going on within the space. At the same time, one could look at that location as if there was an assembly of young people and they had a beer or they had wine, they were not at least right out in the face of other sensitive uses like the schools and the residences that are adjacent around. So I mean, that's plus. But at the same time, what I want to illustrate is let's see where I had some pictures. I just wanted to emphasize that I'm going to just
Okay. I need to keep them now.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Basically, it's to make the point that the use for this space is as a place of recreation for young people to come off the street and enjoy their own company in a public setting. The principal use is not to drink. It's not a bar. They've gone to great expense to provide a cold cut sandwich operation and other conveniences. And this is mainly a convenience. And those pictures are meant to illustrate this is the principal use. There's even a ping pong table in there. I mean, these young people are coming not just to drink. That's not their main operation. Let's see. Also, the hours, also one thing that they're guaranteeing to the city of Glendale is there's going to be a security person. There's going to be somebody there whose principal reason for being is to monitor the affairs of the people who've come there to play billiards, or as a convenience to have a beer or whatever. When I was reviewing the police comments, I came upon, first of all, they say that the consumption of alcohol may have a negative effect. That's kind of making an assumption that anybody who's going to consume alcohol is going to consume too much, which is not necessarily the case, and potentially require greater police enforcement. that's a potential based again on the assumption that, that every young person doesn't know how to have a beer and let it be. But so I'm basically, I've had some experience with David and with his father, and I know the people who have come in there. I've been in there often myself, and I just don't expect the kind of people that I've been meeting in relation to the people, David, who's running the operation, to have a problem. And I think some consideration could be given for who we're actually dealing with instead of going to the maximum possibility of a negative operation occurring, simply because there's beer and wine being added to a recreational facility.
So you're operating now, but just without the alcohol component?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
And they keep the operation. They have that small little courtyard that you can notice at the corner. If you
I was
have
there this morning.
Huh? You were there, okay. Is a place where they gather, and although if the police did need to monitor it, they can see through. But at the same time, if someone is having a beer, it's not going to impact the neighborhood. I mean, it's not something that's like a cafe that's on the sidewalk or something. You know what I'm saying? So, just going through the and the hours of operation, I think Chris went over that, but I'll reiterate it. On Sunday through Wednesday, they want to operate from early afternoon to mid-evening, depending on your feeling for evening, 1 p.m. to 12 a.m. Some people have different. Or Thursday through Saturday, 1 p.m. to 2 a.m. And they're planning on cutting off the sale of beer and wine at 11 Sunday through Wednesday, and at 12 midnight Thursday through Saturday. So I don't know if you have other questions.
I've got a few questions. I sort of wanted to let you talk until you were done, and then I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
So,
okay. All right.
You done with what you have to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Some of these are sort of repeated, or you've told me part of the answers to my questions. Is there food sold there now?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of? What is it?
Oh, it's a little sandwich bar.
Okay.
Where they can, put the sourdough with the tomato and lettuce and.
So it's like a deli?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they have all the, the setup they went through for that. That was considerable. They
Okay.
had to dig up the back of their slab and put in a lot of. It's a good little operation.
Okay, so sandwiches, anything else?
Soft drinks.
Okay. Salads, chips, desserts,
Chips.
whatever.
Chips. No desserts.
Okay.
No desserts.
You need to.
Hi, my name is David Hazarian. I'm the owner of the establishment. Yeah, we're planning to have some desserts there. We have some chips, we have some soft drinks right now, like sodas, orange juices, some original stuffs. We have some coffee, tea over there, hot coffee, iced coffee, like soft.
Okay.
And we have daily. It's already 4 or 5 months we have it. We approved the kitchen.
Okay. Yeah, I vaguely remember your
So
face. Yeah. Okay.
everything is fine. The customers are happy with it. So right now we want to get the beer, not for the drinking there and hanging there, just having a little big change over there. You know, so the people, like, it's a young, we says young, but it's 21 and older guys over there, and I have lot of different culture guys, like Russians, Indians. A lot of people are come there, play there. It's already 1 year and 5 months we have that business. You approved us, and we don't have any problems there at all. We never get called for police or something. Like, I always there. I always control everything there. We have clean everything. Nothing is, no problems. We don't have any problems there. So just we want to get the beer, and I know I can control the beer too because I have a lot of experience with it. Not from here, from my country, and I'm gonna have the security there because, you know, I need somebody there. If I'm not there, security is there and the employees there, so everything is gonna be fine. So just the beer we need for more business, you know, to grow up the business. Should be some beer over there. The billiard room needs some beer, so that's the point, not the bar point. We're not gonna make any bar like we put all the tables. No, we're gonna have we have now some eight chairs and 3 tables there, so just people eat the sandwich, just drink some drink. That's it. They play. The point is playing there, not the drinking there.
Well, if I came in as a customer,
Yes.
would I be able to buy beer or wine without buying food or
No.
without playing
You should
pool?
get the table pool, then you should buy some drink or something, and I'm gonna put some limitation on a beer too. It's my decision because I don't wanna get drunk people there because I spend a lot of money on that business, and I'm not gonna want to lose it, my business though. So I'm gonna put limitation. Each customer can have like 3 bottles or 2 bottles, something like that, some ideal stuff. So just don't get some drunk people there. And I'm gonna have a law of like no drunk people's allowed to get the beer from outside. No beers goes outside, everything inside. So it is being under the control, so don't affect anybody outside.
So I couldn't go in just if I wanted to drink a beer.
No, you should
Okay.
get the pool table, then you drink a beer.
Okay. As you know, the police department did have some serious concerns, including overconcentration of establishments selling alcohol, crime.
Yeah, I know.
The number of schools in the area,
I know.
drunkenness.
Hold
on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on. If the CEP application was approved, do you have any problems with their suggested conditions? Particularly the window tinting,
No.
the monitoring of the parking area, or the minimum of 3 employees on site?
No, I can give them more effective stuff too. I can tell them whenever they want, they can come in, just sit there. I saw a lot of places in hookah lounge, in the brand or somewhere. The police go sit there drinking coffee and they observing. I can have it too there. They can come there. They just can observe it. I don't have any problems. I'll be happy with it because I'll feel safety more. I don't have problems with them. They can observe from parking lot. They can observe from inside whenever they want. They can come in, just have a seat and take a look, have some coffee. So it's not a problem for me, because I'm gonna work properly. I'm working properly. I'm not gonna make any problems there. So I'm scared no observing or stuff. No teens, nothing. Right now I don't have any teens or covers on the windows. It can observe from parking.
Okay.
And whenever
How about the employees?
Yes.
Because
always
what
there.
they're requesting, or what they're suggesting is that during the hours that you're open, that there be 3 employees on the site. And I imagine, that's
One of
probably
them.
including the security guard that you're now.
Security guard, like me and my employee, I'm always there, and the employees there and the security guard can be there. So there's gonna be 3 employees already.
Okay.
So security guard can observe the parking lot and the place where they come in, and the 2 employee can observe the place where they play people. So I don't have any problems.
I didn't recall in your application or in the staff report anywhere a mention of a security guard. So are you committing to providing for one of those, for providing a security guard if this is
Yeah.
application is approved?
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem. I can have security guard there.
Okay. The area that where your billiard hall is now is not an area of the city that has a whole bunch of nighttime activity. Would you have? Well, let me step back a little bit. What are your operating hours now? Are they the same as what was in the staff report? So are you open now on Sunday through Wednesday from 1 in the afternoon to 12 at night?
No, right now we're not working like that.
Okay.
Before when was the hearing? Like 2008 when I get granted, the operation was different. Right now we got changed to, for the beer we changed for 1 to 12, the Sunday to Wednesday, and the Wednesday through Saturday it's 1 to 2. But when we get the beer, we're gonna serve like 1 to 11 Sunday to Wednesday the beer, and from Wednesday to Saturday is gonna be 1 to 12 the beer serving.
What are your when are you open now?
1 o'clock.
You're open until
Yeah, it's
1
the
now.
same time, right?
Okay, so you're
open, start at 1.
Yeah, we are open.
okay. So right now today you'll open
1.
the billiards
Yeah, 1
establishment at 1, and you would close it at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're not changing the hours of operation with how you operate now as it relates to this application?
No, we already changed them.
Okay.
We already changed them.
Okay.
Before it was different. Before we was working longer.
Okay.
Right now we was working shorter for showing that we can do that, and so we can serve beer less than, like, the law is in California. I know it's 2 a.m. to serve the beer, but
Right.
I don't need to do that. If the police says if you do this, I'll let you go with this. I'm okay with it, and I'll think, let me cut off the times. It's easier for them to observe it. Less time they observe for me, and I don't give them hard times, something like that. So
I mean, given that this area isn't really a hub of nighttime activity in the city, would you have concerns about reducing the hours of operation and or having the hours of operation conform with the the hours of being able to serve alcoholic beverages? I probably didn't.
You mean making the hours of operation the same as indicated in here for the serving of the beer?
Right.
In other words, staying open from Sunday through Wednesday, 1 p.m. to...
Well, I guess let me use this as an example. Would you have concerns if instead of operating Sunday through Wednesday from what you're proposing now, 1 p.m. to 12 a.m., to go from 1 p.m. to, say, 10 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday, maybe 1 p.m. to midnight? Would you have concerns over a reduction in the number of operating hours? And then,
let me write it down because
okay.
So,
and I guess the second part of the question is,
so
you're proposing not to sell alcohol yeah, as an example, you're open until, you would be open until 2 a.m. Thursday through Saturday, but you would stop alcohol service
12
at
a.m.
12. Have those 2 hours coincide.
Yeah, what he's saying is stay open till midnight.
If you could speak right into the microphone,
Right.
please, I'm sorry.
I think it's got turned off. No?
No, it's
No,
on.
it's on.
Because the light gets turned off.
Well, see, she's.
So what it says?
So
yeah.
he's saying Thursday through Saturday, 1 p.m. to 12 midnight. Thursday through Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Right. As an example.
In other words, this is an example of what he's proposing, is that this be the actual operating hours of the business.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And that the operating hours for the business Sunday through Wednesday would be 1 p.m. to
10 a.m.
11 to 10? Or 11?
Well, I was just using it as an example.
Example, yeah. I'm okay with it.
When are you busiest?
Starting from 6 to 8, 9.
Okay, so your busiest, a lot of your business occurs between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, and then
It depends the day
Sure.
too. Weekends are a little bit longer.
Okay.
Like Friday and Saturday it goes to 10, 10:30, 11. Not more than. But the weekdays 6 to 9, 9:30, 10. That's it.
Okay, all right.
That's the busiest time.
All right, let me see if I have any other questions for you. I don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have some questions for Lieutenant Fox, though. How are you?
Good afternoon, hearing officer. Bruce Fox, Lieutenant, Glendale Police Department.
All right, thanks for coming.
Sure.
In your comments, you stated that there were numerous calls for public drunkenness, et cetera, on the site in general, not specific to the tenant space. And I think the applicant maybe has already answered that question, but in going to the site, there was nothing that really served alcohol there. There was a Subway, there was like a juice bar thing, and I think there was an Asian restaurant, and I didn't see any other uses that would serve or sell alcohol. Do you have any background as to?
Yes, sir. Maybe a quick history lesson. The area has been is in transition to some degree from somewhat of a blighted area to today, where it stands is it has improved quality tremendously. Going back historically, what had happened in the area, you had a little bit of a hub going on. There was homeless meals provided by the Salvation Army catty corner from the location that would draw in a lot of our homeless population, and that would they would use the services at the Salvation Army, and they would also use the services at the Social Security office just north of the project.
So that just north would be
That building right there?
Here.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
the Social Security office located in that building.
and kitty corner would be
Salvation Army. And then there's also a liquor store directly across the street.
okay.
And so those three locations had created kind of a triangle. And what you had is you had actually, when police first got kind of awakened to the problems in the area, there's a doctor's office across the street that had become a haven of homeless activity. They actually had an encampment there, an encampment behind the banquet hall. Well, that whole problem has gone away since then. And I think what you still have some residual down there of that kind of activity, but the area is tremendously improved. The doctor's office is now operating and fully operational. There's no encampment issues. The banquet hall is fully operational. There's no encampment issues. The liquor store is still problematic to some degree, and from what I understand, Salvation Army has changed their operation of how they conduct their meal service. So all of those components have dramatically improved the area. So that, I think, had a component with the history of it, because I think in my report I cited over the years kind of what that location, as the applicant mentioned, it did have a liquor store at the far north west corner, that was a liquor store for some time too, and that was problematic as well. Yeah,
This
right
is
there, right there.
here?
Yes, sir.
Oops. Shoot. And this is where the restaurants are now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so that liquor store's gone.
Right. So in a historical point of view, that's what we had seen in that area, and the whole area is dramatically improved now to where the crime rate has descended. The calls for service that were more recent, one of them indicated that there was younger people drinking and maybe even gang-like appearances, what the caller stated. And I think what they were doing at that time, if I can speculate from reading the call, is they were taking advantage of some of the kind of tucked away parking in that, and they may have actually come in from the residential area or maybe even gone there for some of the food services. That would be my speculation.
Okay. Okay.
And just to follow up, just to clarify, there were zero, as the applicant said, and as I put in the report, there were 0 calls for service at his location.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it just seems strange going there and, it didn't look like there were any
Draws.
places serving or selling alcohol, and thinking, well, why were there problems on the site? Why would people come to the site to get drunk on their own, or come to the site after being drunk, and why would they do that?
And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sorry that I'm not clear, but I think this is the location I went to and did an observation. Isn't there some degree of underground parking as well?
There is.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think that's somewhat of a draw too for people either going to one of the meal establishments or from local residences to kind of hide out. We have that same problem at some other subterranean garages in town, but that may have been part of the problem at that location as well. And that's why my concern was with not necessarily the applicant's project, but with maybe a landowner kind of responsibility for a site plan that would kind of keep some of that element out as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where you reference the environmental design review and that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the second question is, in your suggested conditions, you stated that there will be at least 3 employees on site at all times. How did you all come up with 3 rather than 2 or 4?
Yes, sir. And my reasoning for that is that, and my greatest concern is that there needs to be some sort of responsibility for the exterior of the business. From a police point of view, the applicant mentioned in his testimony that they do utilize the courtyard for, getting a breath of air, or I don't know, or at least for some customer gathering point. I'm concerned that could become problematic in as much as there's loitering and alcohol being served. So I was thinking that for the size of the business, one person doing serving, providing for tables, providing for food, providing for alcohol, another person's doing work in the kitchen, that would free up at least one more person to maybe monitor the exterior of the location. That was my thought on that.
Does, that third person you were thinking would be some sort of security
Could be, sure.
person?
Or just some sort of staff member of some variety.
Okay.
Security, of course, would be an added benefit, I think, at that point, but
Having
at least some other set of
Official
eyes.
security guard. If the applicant, or if the application was approved with a condition that a security guard be employed during all hours of operation or something like that, would that
Mitigate?
mitigate some of your concerns?
Yes, sir, it would.
Okay.
I may speak one other thing that came up, and I think you hit on it, Mr. Hearing Officer, is that you mentioned about the hours of service. From an enforcement point of view, it would be more beneficial for us if they were together. It's problematic for us to do ABC enforcement at establishments where a proprietor is put in a position where they have to say, okay, everybody, no more drinking anymore, but enjoy the pool tables. We've had problems with that in the past. It would be better if the closing and alcohol sales ended at the same time.
Okay, yeah. So if Sunday through Thursday, as they have proposed to close at 12 a.m., you want the operating hours and the hours of service of alcohol to be the same?
That would be preferable, yes, sir.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because as I was asking the applicants this, I was also thinking I mean, the occasional times where I'm at a wedding or some other event where it may end at 12 or 1, commonly they'll say alcohol service ends at 11:30. These events aren't businesses, they're more special events like weddings or something like that. And it's, in my mind, it's so that, people aren't drinking until 12 o'clock when the event ends and then they leave in their car and go home.
Yeah, that's a very good point, sir, and I do acknowledge that. I guess where I was coming from is that when we do enforcement, if for some reason, I'm kind of looking towards the future, that if for some reason we did have to start looking at this as more of an enforcement problem location, when officers respond there, it's easier to sort out, is this a closed business, or is this, did you violate your CUP, as opposed to, should you be closed by this time? But you bring up a good point that it might be beneficial in some ways to have a staggered closing and alcohol service.
Which would you prefer?
I would personally prefer that they be married, that the two be together.
Okay.
Because I just think it'd be cleaner for me as a manager of resources to tell my enforcement officers that, yeah, that place, is supposed to be closed at midnight. If we did need to start to look at it as more of a problematic location.
Okay.
One other concern that kind of came to my mind is that as the applicant spoke, and I heard some really good things from what their presentation was, and it sounds like they have a reasonable plan in place, absent some of the concerns. One additional concern that just popped into my mind, and I'll just throw it out there for your perusal, is I believe it's a June 30th, 2013 expiration date.
I believe so.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a 3-year trial, which in my opinion might be a little long. I don't know.
Or the CUP for
alcohol, yeah. I don't know what latitude you have there, but there might be some sort of compromise there too.
Okay.
All right.
Do you have any?
I was thinking a year to start, and if there's a good track record, that could be increased. That would just be my recommendation.
Okay.
Mr. Kiso, could I ask the officer a question?
Sure.
On the security guard issue, do you prefer to have it from a recognized security company, or can he hire, somebody who says, I'm a security guard and passes certain thresholds for you guys? What is your preference on that, so that if it was a security guard situation, I assume it would be to the satisfaction of the police department, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess in one of the questions I had for Lieutenant Fox, I maybe didn't ask it as clearly as you're asking it. I got the feeling like, yes, it needed to be a uniformed official security guard versus the third employee that would periodically come out and go through the parking lot.
Let me answer that two phases. First of all, I think that security would be value added here as much as that would be a more official person. I was kind of looking at just more staff, more staffing, more eyes on. I would caution, though, that maybe through the conditions or in discussions with the applicant that if they're going to go the security route, state law actually enters in, and that security person cannot just be, a friend of a friend who throws a jacket on. It's got to be hired through a security company that's licensed.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because the state's pretty clear on that.
Okay, so if a condition stated that a security guard be
state
on site
licensed
all the time, it would default have to be
Yes,
an
sir.
official.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And what has happened is that the State Consumer Affairs Board has gotten involved with security issues because there were so many, just people throwing jackets on, that now they require that if a business entity is going to enter into a security operation, that they can't just hire their own staff to be security. They have to do it through a licensed agency.
Okay.
So that's just I think that would be better. Mm-hmm. I think extra staff would be good too. Mm-hmm. But if they're going to go that way, they need to do it in the proper way.
Okay. Which I think, and maybe I'll get the applicant back up and confirm was what they offered anyway.
Okay.
So, all right, thanks a lot.
You bet. My pleasure.
Actually, I've got a couple more questions for the applicant if you can come up. Maybe both of you. It just, I did want to ask a question about sort of the garage operation. I was there, and from Central, if you make an immediate right into the parking lot, it goes down. Is that area open all the time? It isn't. When is it closed and?
You should have a key for the doors.
Okay.
All the leases have
Speak
the
into the
keys.
microphone, please, sir. I'm
All
sorry.
the keys, all the leases have the keys for the doors to get under it. And when you go with the car, it opened during the daytime until 5. After 5, it get closed. You cannot get in. You just need to have some control, and from under it to come out with the car, it opens automatically. So
Okay.
it closes automatically 5 o'clock, so nobody can get in. I just changed 3 locks over there downstairs because mine was broke in the when you get in corner in the right hand. I have the door. I just changed 1 there and 2 downstairs because they just got working wrong, and I just changed them so nobody get in, and that's it.
Okay. So during the day, as a customer, I could come in and park down.
No, up. Customers goes up.
Oh, okay.
Employees goes down.
Okay, so at no time can just a customer park downstairs. Is it? But it's not always locked.
Yeah, until 5, the customer can go down and park down.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah,
asking.
but
So
after it,
if I
you
was a
can-
customer during the day, I could park down there. But after 5, in order for me to access
you can't.
my car or a customer, I would have to either park, I would have to park above. Only business owners have the controls to get in. Okay. Okay. And then I guess the second question is, you did earlier state that you would be hiring a security person. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Licensed, yeah.
Okay.
Licensed.
Okay. So if that were made a condition.
Yeah, and you can put the time frames, like, I don't know if you want all day, or you can put like 1 to 6, after 6 security guard or something there. I don't know, it's your decision. I don't know how you work with that.
Okay.
So I'm fine with
If it
both
was all
ways.
day, you would be fine with all day. If it was
Yeah.
an incremental period of time, you'd be fine with that.
Daytime,
It
day-
might make sense.
Daytime.
Talking to the mic, I'm sorry.
It might make sense in considering the hours of the security person to be the hours of greatest use. I don't know, because sometimes
Sure.
there might be 2 or 3 people there for
Sure.
2 or 3 hours, and to have you know what I mean?
Well, and that's why I asked a couple questions about the number of employees and that sort of
2
thing.
employees going to be inside every time, but about the security, from my experience in my business, like 1 to 4, 5 o'clock, I don't need some. There is nobody goes in. Like 2 people goes come out. Like 2 people play there. So I don't know. The security guard is the expensive thing. With the license, though, I have some connections. They have company. It's a $25 per hour. You know, it's not the cheap thing. So. But if you require all day, I'll put all day. But if it's like time frame for them at the night time, from my experience, I can tell you guys, for nighttime is better to have the security there, because nighttime is the peaky time. Nighttime is the busiest time.
Yeah.
Daytime.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the,
Do you have anything else to add?
no, that's it.
Okay. I think I've answered all my questions.
Thank you.
so-
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. I will close the public hearing, and we have nothing else on the agenda. Thank you for coming, and it is now 11:25, and the meeting is over. Thanks.